you can lead everything and accept everyone.
All right. I don't know, it was only me who heard that alarm, but that's a way to open. So hello everyone, and a warm welcome to these Global AI Festival events in Oslo, which we are super excited to be launching today. My name is Lilian. I am a board member of Oslo AI, and I'll be your guide or your host today, along with Abby. You want to say hi, Abby? Or just wave?
Hello.
Yes. We in Oslo AI, we are super Happy and honored to be hosting these events in collaboration with Brain NTNU and NeuralNet. Those are the student organizations for AI at NTNU and Oslo Met, respectively. So today's event, we will be focusing on the next generation of AI innovators. So we will put representatives from NTNU Brain and NTNU, and NeuralNet on stage, so that you get to hear their perspectives. So that's the day one event today, where you are right now. We also have the day two event tomorrow. So I highly encourage you to sign up for that if you have not already. It's NeuralNet who will be hosting that event, and it will be focusing on research and applications of AI in health. So there'll be 4 lightning speeches, lots of interesting stuff, physics-informed neural networks, and even a touch of quantum computing for cancer research. So yes, that's warmly encouraged to join that also. So a few words about, let's see, it takes a while to load this thing. The agenda of today. So I'm obviously here to wish you all a warm welcome and give you a bit of context to these events and also AI as well. And then after that, we'll have some time to look into the festival tools. So first of all, these 2 events here in Oslo are part of the Global AI Festival. So that is a festival that is going on in the course of a month, started mid-November, going on until mid-December. It's being hosted on several cities across the globe. So that's something for you to take advantage of, I would say. There are many cool things going on. So with the festival tools you get access to here today, you'll be able to connect to the events happening in the other cities. So yeah, this is a festival held digitally worldwide, focusing on building understanding of how AI is being used, and like, yeah, so you can get to see what the adoption of AI is in the local cities. And also one main purpose is to connect the AI ecosystem globally. So yeah, you'll be able to do that, to talk to AI enthusiasts across the globe. So that's sweet. Yeah, we are hosting our 2 events here today and tomorrow, but this week is actually a quite intense week in terms of Global AI Festival. So the 26th of November, Beirut will host their first event, and the 27th of November, depending on which time zone you're in, you can enjoy the events of Bangkok, Beirut, and Morocco. Now, if you're mere mortal, as we all are, and you cannot join live, then you have the option of looking at the events recordings, which are part of the YouTube channel for City.AI. You can find them there. So if you just go to YouTube and type City.AI in one word, you can find them there. And here you can also see that New York AI was first out. They had their Global AI Festival first day event the 17th of November, so that's available there. Yes. All right, so that was the context of the Global AI Festival. Now to Oslo AI and what that is, or who that is. And here at least you get to see the board members of the Oslo AI team. We're a group of quite diverse group, I would say. We all have in common that it's our passion to build the AI community, to facilitate collaboration between different players of the AI ecosystem. So our mission is to be the meeting place for people who are interested in how AI is shaping tech, society, and business. So we believe that sharing knowledge is the first step in being able to do that collaboration, and that's why we are here today. Oslo AI is part of City.AI, which is a global network of AI communities. And through this map and this list, you get this sense and a feeling for that it is truly global. So it's present in many cities across the globe. Oslo AI has a Slack channel as a connection portal for AI professionals and enthusiasts. And if you want to join that, you can go to our webpage. This is oslo.city.ai and press this red join button up in the upper right corner, and then we'll invite you into our Slack community. You can reach us through several different portals, this webpage being one of them. And we also have a meetup group, which you might have gotten to know if you're here today. LinkedIn is also a good source of following up because we have several different events and initiatives, so just stay tuned. A thank you is also in place. We have sponsors that we are very happy to have in Meta, Microsoft, and Miles. And it's really, as a nonprofit organization, we wouldn't be able to host these events without their support. So big thanks. Right, so that was some words of introduction and context to where we are while we are here today. I think it's good to take some few minutes to get familiar with the festival tools. So this festival is hosted on 3 different digital platforms. We are here on Zoom. It's also Discord and GatherTown. So let's, yeah, if that feels overwhelming, don't panic. You're here. That's the most important, and we're very happy that you're here. The other ones are offerings, and you can take them or leave them. But in order to communicate and network with this global community, those are good places to go. So the first one up, Discord, if you want. So that's a portal for you to be able to chat with the participants across these different cities hosting events as part of the Global AI Festival. So you can visit discord.com and install the version and join the Global AI Festival server, either by entering this code or typing this link. And maybe Abby can share it in the chat such that it's easier for you to join. Yes, so there are different channels and announcements, and maybe most interesting also these this introduction section where people say hi and introduce themselves, so you get a feeling for who is connected to this space. Second up is GatherTown. So that's the portal that we will be using for networking session. So these 2 places, so Discord and Gather, they are common for all cities part of this Global AI Festival. So if you go into the space, and you're free to go into the space whenever you want, sorry. You might meet, yeah, who knows who you might meet from which city that person will be. So it's, yeah, it's an opportunity to network globally. And we will be moving into this space at the end of this session. I mean, the talks and the panel debate we'll be having here on Zoom today. So after we finish on Zoom, we'll be moving in together in order to network there. So before we do that, I'll give a little demonstration of Gather, so you'll have a bit more time to get familiar with it if you're not already. But in order to prepare, you can join the Global AI Festival Gather space by that link, which maybe Abby also can share in the chat. As a little heads up in case you get confused by that, this picture here is not what you see when you enter that link. There's a new feature of Gather, which is that you'll first be sent to sort of tutorial welcoming space, which looks like this. So either you can choose to skip this tutorial. What's this? Skip tutorial button in the left there, or you can go through the 3 little steps of this tutorial, learning how to move around and how to mute and unmute and how to interact with objects in this space. But yes, just if you see this, it's normal. Right. Okay. So that was it for me and introductions. I think I'll just want to hand the stage over and tell you a little bit about the program that we'll be walking through today. So first talk will be of Anna-Sofia Lunde, and the second one of Jorgen Farner, before we have a panel discussion. So before I hand the word over, the virtual microphone over to Anna-Sofia Lunde, let me just quickly introduce first our speakers. Anna-Sofia Lunde is the leader of Brain NTNU, and Jorgen Farner is a member of NeuralMet, and they are here to share their perspectives and on, they might be talking about something like AI in education, what the status quo is, what is up and coming for them, and some projects that they are working on. So looking forward to hear that. For the panel discussion, our speakers will be joined by 2 other members of the panel. That is Kristoffer Gjerde, who was the former leader of Brain NTNU, and Rashmi Ganapati, Naik, which is also part of NeuralMet. So yeah, we'll be discussing some various topics. And for this session, yes, it's important to note that you are free and encouraged to type in, if you have any questions, type them in the chat and we'll pick them up and hand them over to our panelists for them to give their views on that as well. So please do just fire away with questions in the chat. Right, then I think that's it for me. I'll hand the virtual microphone over to Anna-Sofia Lunde.
Thank you so much, Lillian. All right. Can everybody see my screen now? Yep. Perfect. All right. Welcome so much to this presentation. Today, I am here on behalf of Brain NTNU, a student organization focusing on connecting students, academia, and the industry within the field of AI. And we are located here at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, or abbreviated NTNU. Today, I'll be talking about AI in higher education. But before we start, I would just like to thank you everybody for being here today. It is extremely engaging to see you all, and hope you enjoy this presentation. So let's get started. The agenda for this presentation is as follows. First, I will give a short introduction on what Brain NTNU is and how we operate. After that, I will talk about what is the status quo today with regards to AI in higher education. Lastly, I will be talking about how students or student organizations like, for example, Brain NTNU, are working on bridging the gap between theoretical foundations and more hands-on AI projects. But first off, who are we? Well, as Lillian mentioned, my name is Anna, and I am the current leader of Brain NTNU. I'm currently pursuing my master's degree here at NTNU in Industrial Economics and Technology Management, where I'm taking a specialization in AI and optimization. With me today, I also have Kristoffer Gjerde, who is the former leader of Brain NTNU, and he graduated last year out of computer science with a master's degree in AI here at NTNU, and is now working as a software engineer at Cognite. And he will be joining me for the panel debates after the presentation. So, what is Brain NTNU? Well, I already told you about our vision. And through this vision, we host different events. Through the circa 3 years we've been operating, since 2018, we have held 26 events, and through those events, we have reached over 2,000 students. And we are currently 24 members, which some of them you can see in the background here. Now, Christopher, I have a video with Christopher who is going to talk a little bit about Brain NTNU. I have to give a disclaimer here that the video is in Norwegian, but the subtitles are in English.
Brain NTNU er en studentorganisasjon som jobber med å samle studenter, næringsliv og forskning innen kunstig intelligens. Dette gjør vi gjennom et tett samarbeid med AI-laben her på NTNU. AI-lab er et senter for å samle forskning, utdannelse og innovasjon innen kunstig intelligens. Her på NTNU har de lokale for masterstudenter. I tillegg blir det brukt av oss i Brain og andre engasjerte. Med AI-lab ønsker vi å samle studenter gjennom ulike arrangement. Årlig arrangerer Brain et AI-hackathon for studenter som ønsker å utfordre seg på en spennende oppgave. Her må du kombinere fag og erfaring for å komme opp med en innovativ løsning, sånn at du har en sjanse til å sikre med vinnerpremien. Brain ønsker å inspirere til innovasjon og entreprenørskap. Gjennom Startup AI får studenter møte spennende AI-startups. Her får de høre hva de holder på med, og teknologien de bruker. Med å høre hvordan de anvender kunstig intelligens, håper vi at flere studenter oppfordres til å velge denne veien i arbeidslivet. Sammen med Jenteprosjektet ADA arrangerer vi en konferanse for jenter i AI. Her ønsker vi å inspirere flere jenter til å utforske kunstig intelligens. Ved å høre inspirerende foredrag fra kvinner i bransjen, håper vi at studentene blir mer motivert til å jobbe med teknologien. For å holde disse arrangementene, så har vi ukentlig arbeidskveld på Fram, innovasjonslokalene til NTNU. Her planlegger vi arrangementene i prosjektgrupper, i tillegg til at vi holder interne kurs for medlemmene. Så langt har Brain arrangert mange forskjellige arrangementer, og interessen for kunstig intelligens fortsetter bare å øke. Dette vil du ikke gå glipp av.
All right, so there we got a little more information about Brain NTNU and what we do. So now let's go over to status quo today with regards to AI in higher education. And by the way, a quick note, I saw there's some questions coming in, but I will take them at the end of the presentation. But just send in any questions that you might have. So, status quo today. With regards to status quo today, I will be talking about up and coming for students, which areas within AI are up and coming for students, some aspirations that some of the students have with regards to AI, and I will be portraying some student work. And a quick disclaimer here, I will only be able to, these are only my perspectives within these topics. I will not be able to give a full representation of everything going on within AI at NTNU, but these are my perspectives on these topics. So let's get started. So, up and coming for students. Here I have some topics: computer vision, reinforcement learning agents, robotics, NLP, or natural language processing, and combining AI with traditional optimization. Now, these might not be new areas within AI, but I would say that a lot of the students today, maybe in contrast to a couple of generations back, have a lot of experience in a broad set of these areas. And this because a lot of the technologies are very easy to implement today, and the technology is very easily available. Within computer vision, a lot of, for example, utilizing YOLO for you only look once models for object detection, or implementing computer vision into software of drones is some of the different types of topics and use cases for computer vision that I have seen, and it's very popular amongst a lot of the students. Within reinforcement learning agents, typical projects are applying Q-learning on, for example, an easier game as Hex, or more difficult games such as chess, which I will be showing actually later. Within robotics, there are a lot of different robotics that a lot of students enjoy. For example, the Pepper robot or the Spot robot from Boston Dynamics, or more towards drones, or for example, different types of robotics. And also NLP is very popular. Within NLP, I know a student last year was working on giving with the GPT-3 model, which was giving the model some common characteristics of people, for example, gender, age, and typical personality traits. For example, if the person is an introvert versus extrovert, and generating an actual Twitter tweet based off of these characteristics, and seeing if there is some main differences between different types of tweets for different types of people. And within combining AI with the traditional optimization, it is a lot about utilizing AI to represent more real life instances of problems. I know a lot of traditional optimization is utilizing mathematical modeling for deterministic and static instances, but to a larger degree, I know a lot of students are utilizing AI, for example, to predict stochastic variables and then feeding this into a traditional optimization model, so that it, to a larger degree, actually portrays real-life instances. And then to aspirations. The first aspiration I would like to point out is making XAI, or explainable AI, qualified for business and regulated domains, for example, finance and law. This is very relatable to especially Norway, where these domains are very regulated by regulatory units, and you're not really able to use these black box models, for example, deep neural nets, to, for example, give the probability of default. This is not something that is, this is very regulated in Norway, and it's something that is not allowed by companies to utilize. But as research is not really, is not as regulated as companies are, and you can, I know some students are working on looking into the possibilities of reducing this black box factor and making it more explainable, and seeing if it is actually possible to see what the different, what the model is actually utilizing to give the different predictions. And seeing if there even is a future possibility of using these black boxes today in these domains in the future. And another one that I also mentioned a little earlier is representing the real world to capture stochasticity and dynamics, especially within optimization. Now, I want to portray some student work. Before I portray this student work, I would just like to say that if anybody is interested in getting in contact with these people, I think the last slide contains our mail address. So I would be very happy to put you in contact with these different students. So you can just send us an email and we will put you in contact. With the deep neural net, this is actually a member of Brain NTNU that has implemented a deep neural net to play the game of chess. And I can actually show you the video right here. So here we can see that the white player is the brain member who is playing, and the agent or the deep neural net is the black player. The agent utilizes a deep neural net to evaluate the different states, the value of the different states, while it uses a minimax with alphabet pruning algorithm to decide the policy or the decision rules. And what you can see is that the agent is a lot slower once the game evolves, as there are so many different states to evaluate. And I would say this brain member is actually a fairly good player, but yeah, now we can see that is actually speeding up quite a lot because there are so many, there are a lot fewer states to evaluate for the agents. It goes quite fast at the end, but what you can see is that the brain member actually won, but he is a fairly good player. So I would say he is trying to implement actually more reinforcement learning algorithms, for example, Q-learning in these in this agent. He hasn't come that far yet, but with that, it will be very fun to see and follow this agent in the future as well. Now I would like to show a second example of some student work. This is a drone that finds and follows human. And this is also a brain member who has implemented this. So you can see a short video.
What?
And this is actually one of the typical examples that I like to show the students. This because this was the drone cost maybe a little bit over $100 US. And this was actually a hobby project for this brain member over the summer. And he did not have that much prior knowledge with AI. He did have a lot of knowledge within programming, but it kind of shows how easy it is to get started with AI and how easy you can get kind of these results in the start and how many resources are out there. So you just kind of have to get started and you can get really cool results quite quickly. This third and last student work I would like to show is a Deep Privacy by Jorgen Herglas. He presented at one of our brain events, and he was a PhD student. And this is a automatic anonymization with deep neural net that he calls Deep Privacy. So here we can see.
And then you train it over time, and it's going to look more and more like a face. So for those interested, this takes about 20 days to train on 2 GPUs who cost 100,000 Norwegian kroner each. So it's pretty expensive to do this. And that's one of the difficulties of my research. So now I know how to generate a face. I can do face detection. And if you just put all of this together, you have this original image, and I'm able to anonymize this. And this is the resulting image. Again, in a bit more realistic scenario, you have probably a typical scenario for an autonomous vehicle, a bunch of people crossing the street, and this is the anonymized image. And I'm also going to show you a video to show it a bit more close detailed. Oh.
But my worry is
So probably the sound isn't good.
Underestimating these guys. And my worry is that a lot of people have been pranked saying that they're going to die. My worry is that you're going to get 10 scripts and that you're going to have dynamite.
So that is Håkon Herglas' deep privacy model, which utilizes a generative CNN or convolutional neural network model to create these anonymized videos and images of people. So that was some of the student work that I would like to show. And now I'm going to go more over to bridging the gap and why students, how Brain contributes in the AI community and why student organizations are so important in the field of AI. So first off, Brain contributes or hopefully contributes in the AI community by lowering the bar for starting with AI. We see a lot of students having some prejudice and initial thoughts regarding AI that it's extremely difficult to get started with, and that you have to know an enormous amount of mathematics and statistics and programming. But we see that a lot of our events, which are targeted towards first to third year students, that they actually are very able to complete a lot of the tasks within AI and actually implement a lot of the different AI tasks. So it really does, we really try to show how it's not that difficult to get started with, and there are so many resources out there regarding AI and help that you can get. So that is one of the parts. And we also introduce AI to large masses of students. Not only do we introduce it to AI, traditional AI students, but we also introduce it to, for example, business students and other students that maybe don't really know that much about AI, but get really interested in this field after the events that we host. So we also try to showcase new and interesting fields within AI. With regards to Brain, we have talked about maybe hosting AI in construction, because there are some up and coming startups that are actually utilizing AI in construction. There are also a lot of other typical use cases that we like to show on our events, which I think really captures a lot of interest from the different students. And hopefully, in the long term, we hope to increase interest and hopefully reduce the talent shortage in Norway when it comes to data engineering, data science, and AI, because we know there is just a growing amount of need for this expertise and competence. So we hope that these factors, our events will introduce this AI to a lot of students, and hopefully they will get interested and maybe they will like to work in this field in the future. And also a last point I would like to mention here is easier and more targeted recruiting. Brain enables a lot of the different AI companies to easier and more easily target AI students and AI interested students. This, for example, by attending our events and getting in contact with the students there. Or, for example, posting an AI job listing at our websites. So, why are student organizations important? Well, it showcases the possibilities within AI to the up and coming generation. It provides a continuation of knowledge to younger students and enables an earlier start within AI. And by this, for example, Brain NTNU hosts a lot of internal coursing for its members, which is typically fifth-year students, AI students, teaching the younger students how to apply AI and how to get started, like, for example, holding an introductory course to computer vision. And This provides a possible early start with AI and really cultivates the different interests of the students. It connects students and businesses to a larger degree. And as I mentioned earlier, enables more targeted recruiting, which is very beneficial for a lot of the AI companies that really want to target these students. Lastly, I would like to mention that it provides a possible international and national collaborations. And for example, I can only speak with regards to Brain and New. We have now started collaborating, for example, with, as Jorgen, he's going to present from Neuromet. We have collaborated with them and are going to collaborate in the future as well. And also in up and coming AI environments, for example, in Stavanger. But I also think that there are a lot of possible international collaborations as well. It'd be interesting to have, for example, an international hackathon in the future. And with that, I would just like to say that list up some future possibilities. If there are anybody interested in contacting us, for example, by joining one of our events, or if you want to, as I mentioned, post an AI job listing on our website. We also do Medium blog posts if anybody's interested in writing one for us, that would be great. We also have internal coursing if anybody wants to, for example, hold one of the course internal coursing. And we are also starting to looking at doing projects for different companies if that is of any interest. And yeah, you can definitely just contact us by mail at contact@brainandnew.no or visit our website, brainandnew.no. And with that, I would just like to say thank you so much for watching my presentation, and I hope you found it very interesting. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Anna, for that interesting talk. I think we'll gather some of the questions. I've been picking them up from the chat, and then maybe we can do them in the panel discussion.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. Then I think without any further ado, I'll hand the microphone over to Jorgen. Take it away.
All right. Is that visible and everyone can hear me? Yep. Great. So I'm Jorgen, and I'm a student at Oslo Met. And I wanted to cover 3 things today. So first, I'll give a short introduction of Neural Met, which is our student organization in AI at Oslo Met, who will, like it was mentioned previously, they will be responsible for the Day 2 event, so check that out. And then I also want to talk a little bit about the master program that I'm a part of at the Oslo Met. And finally, I'll present one of the projects that I've been a part of through the ACIT program with the help of some of the PhD students and professors at the AI lab at Oslo Met. So currently at Neural Met, we are 5 members. Rashmi, Dennis Larsen, and I, we are all second-year students at the ACIT program, taking the AI specialization. And then we have Dennis Napast and Alexandra, who is our latest member, who are bachelor students in information technology. So Neural Met is actually our new name. We used to be called AI Makerspace, which was a little bit confusing because there was already a group called Makerspace at Oslo Met. So that's when we came up with this clever combination of neural and Met. So there should be no confusion that it's a group associated with AI and Oslo Met. So this organization is completely driven by students and was created in November 2020 with the support of the AI lab. So they still support us. We have weekly meetings with them, but we kind of decide in what direction we want to develop the organization. And I joined in January 2021, so I've been part of the NeuronMet for almost a year. And this group was created in the midst of the Corona pandemic. So the initial purpose was to kind of create a space for students to meet up digitally, of course, and be social, but at the same time learn about technology. And in the beginning, our focus was a little bit broader than it is today. We tried to cover more general topics in technology, including robotics as well. But we have slowly shifted our focus to be solely focused on artificial intelligence. And so today our purpose has shifted a little bit as well. So we try to create interest in artificial intelligence among the students, and also provide a platform where they can learn new technology related to AI. And we also play the role of connecting the students with companies, which is beneficial for both sides, as the students can learn what is going on in the industry, while the companies can get their name out amongst the students and potentially recruit graduates for internships and jobs. So we aim to accomplish these purposes by creating tutorials, workshops, hackathons, and seminars. So as of right now, we've had, the events we've had so far can be split into two groups, the company events and the courses. So we've had a hackathon with Beauvais, a project presentation by Ruter, and 2 weeks ago we were lucky enough to have a workshop with Microsoft. So in general, we when we're in contact with these companies, we try to aim for more of a hands-on type of events, since we know the students have been sitting all day listening to lectures. So it's important that the events are engaging, which I think we've managed so far. And then we have the courses that we create and run ourselves, which include Python courses, TensorFlow, NLP, and Arduino. And we run these a few times. I was going to say once every semester, but we've only existed for 2 semesters. So, but typically we'll run them maybe twice. Yeah, and we plan to expand to have more courses in the future. And actually, both the Python and Arduino courses have been used as part of the requirements for some of the courses at Oslo Met, which has kind of opened our eyes to an opportunity where we can actually fill a void in the curriculum, where for any what do you say, utdanningsløp study program, there's a limited number of slots for courses. So we noticed that a lot of the teachers feel like they can't really cover all the stuff they want to cover, and that's where we can help out and have some of the more simpler topics, like an introduction course to Python. Now that there are less restrictions due to Corona, we want to focus more on the bigger in-person events, and try to create an even more active community around neural net and artificial intelligence at Oslo Met. And of course, this is a challenging task. So for the mandatory courses taught at Oslo Met, there's always an incentive for the students to show up and participate, since they want to get good grades and they don't want to fail. But for us, it's more challenging because the students are spending their free time for something that will not be on their diploma. So that's a big challenge, to try to create things that will actually make the students want to stick around after a long day at school. And we also want to, like Anna mentioned, continue the inter-university collaboration. So we've had some collaboration with Brain NTNU, and we've also been in dialogue with the university in Oslo and the university in Stavanger, who's just started up a similar group at their university. So it's going to be very interesting to see that develop. And there's also recently been some discussions about expanding the concept at Oslo Met, having different organizations for the different study programs, which would allow us to collaborate across disciplines, which I think would be very cool. And then lastly, of course, we've enjoyed collaborating with the different companies from the AI industry, something that we would really like to continue with in the future. So the next section, I want to talk a little bit about the master program that I am a part of. I believe it was consisted of 3 specializations previously, and now they've expanded to 7. So it's called the ACIT program, which stands for Applied Computer and Information Technology. And so these other 4 specializations, they were added in the fall of 2020. And I'm part of the first group of students taking the Applied Artificial Intelligence specialization. So we are kind of a trial group for this program, but our experience has been quite good. And the great thing is that the few complaints we've had have been listened to, and we've already seen that they made some changes to the program based on our feedback. And another quite, as far as I know, quite unique thing about this program is that we are able to choose between short and long master thesis, where the long thesis lasts for 3 semesters instead of the 1. Which allows the students to dive a lot deeper into a subject and produce a much more substantial final thesis. And it also prepares us for potentially an academic career, if that's something we're interested in. Which kind of takes me into the next slide. So through my master thesis, I've become a part of something called the Living Technology Lab at Oslo Met. Which is part of the AI lab I mentioned as kind of the instigator for the NeuroMet organization. And it's led by Stefano Nichel, who's a professor at Oslo Met and also one of my supervisors for my master thesis. And so it currently consists of 6 PhD students and 2 master students. And then I'll read the quote that I found on their website. At our lab, we work with bio-inspired approaches to AI at the intersection of biological and artificial life, computational neuroscience, and complex systems. So the focus of this lab is to draw inspiration from biology when developing and researching AI, which I find very interesting and was not something I expected to work with when I started this master degree. Although in some ways AI is inspired by biology, it's sort of becoming more and more abstract. So this lab is focused on more of the biological aspects to try to find new ways of developing AI. So being part of this lab has given me many opportunities, and let me be a part of many cool things. The project I'm going to present is I'm so self-involved that I'm just going to show up a project I've been a part of myself. But me and 2 other students, we took a course called Evolutionary Artificial Intelligence and Robotics during our 2nd semester, and we worked on this project that we got very involved in. So we spent a lot of time on it, and after the semester was over, we were contacted by the teacher, the teacher of the course, and asked if he wanted to continue working on it and have it be presented at the ICES, which is the International Conference on Evolvable Systems. And I thought that was just a great thing that these professors and PhD students wanted to include us in something like this. And I think it's a great thing at the ACIT program. So I'll conclude this presentation. I don't know how much time I have left, but just give me a nod if I'm running close to the limit. So I'll conclude this presentation with a little overview of this project, which the title is kind of a mouthful, but it's called Evolving Spiking Neuron Cellular Automata and Networks to Emulate In Vitro Neuronal Activity. The aim of the project is essentially to try to emulate the behavior of networks of real neurons through an algorithm called an evolutionary algorithm, which is a genetic algorithm. I'll get back to what that means, but the data that we used was collected not by us, but it's from a paper cited below here, the Wagner paper. So they have neurons growing on a kind of a sheet of microelectrode arrays, which allows them to detect the spikes created by the population of living neurons. So initially they're just individual neurons, and over time they kind of grow more complex structures. So the data set consists of different densities taken at different time points. So you get the kind of a different spiking behavior. So whenever you try to model a network of neurons, you have to choose a neuron model to represent the individual neurons. And we chose the leaky integrate and fire model, which is a quite simple and computationally efficient model, although not able to produce very complex behavior as a single unit. So it works by integrating incoming spikes by a weighted summation. And then it also includes a leak coefficient, which gradually reduces the membrane potential of the neuron when it receives no spikes, which is somewhat similar to a real neuron. And this is described by the differential equation in the A part of this figure. So you can see from the plot at the top, there's it receives spikes, and then there's a gradual current leak when it's kind of inactive. So for the evolutionary algorithm that I previously mentioned, we need to have a genome or a chromosome that is essentially the parameters of the model, which can be seen in figure C here. And it consists of a leak and integration coefficient, which is part of this differential equation. And then there is the refractory period, the TR, which is the time after a postsynaptic spike where the neuron is in a refractory period and does not respond to incoming spikes. Then there is a spike threshold, which determines what the required membrane potential needs to be to cause a spike. And since the network, it doesn't receive any explicit input, so there needs to be some probability of spontaneous activity or spikes to kind of keep the activity in the network going, which can then propagate further to other neurons. Then we also have the ratio of excitatory and inhibitory neurons. So excitatory neurons will cause a increase in the postsynaptic or the postsynaptic neurons membrane potential, while the inhibitory neurons reduces the membrane potential. And lastly, there's a constant that determines the conductivity of the network. So the process in this evolutionary algorithm is that you create many models with the values for this genome initialized randomly, and then you let the model run for a certain period of time, and the resulting spike data is then compared with the real data using the fitness function at the bottom here, which just simply compares how similar they are. And the models that give the highest fitness score or the highest similarity is then chosen to be part of the next round or generation of genomes. And these best genomes are then mixed or not. There's a few ways of doing it, but essentially the best genomes continue to the next generation. And then this process is repeated for as many generations you want, or until you reach a certain fitness score, and then you're left with the best model. So in a way, this mimics the evolutionary process found in nature, where the fittest individuals survive, while in this case, we're essentially searching a parameter space for an optimal solution. And then the B figure here shows just an example network with the green excitatory neurons and the red inhibitory neurons. All right, so the result of the project was quite cool. So the models were actually able to produce some somewhat complex behavior where we had network-wide bursts. But then when we dove a little more into the details, we could see that we were not able to reproduce the spatial activity, which was likely due to the simple neuron model and the kind of homogeneous connectivity, and of course the size limit of the network models. I probably spoke a little fast. I don't know how much time I used, but I just wanted to give a little shout out to the group that was part of that project. So it's the 3 master students on the left, Christine, who's my main supervisor, in the middle. She did almost all the work with the actual submission for the conference. And then we have Ola, who's a neuroscientist, and he lets us know when we make some incorrect assumptions about the biological aspect of the models. And then finally, Stefano on the right, who's the leader of the Living Technology Lab. So if you want to learn more about this project, I have the citation at the bottom here. I can probably post a link as well. Yeah, that was my presentation. Thank you.
Great, thank you for taking the time to go through this. Maybe we'll go into the panel discussion right now. If anybody has any questions, to put it into the chat too. And we have the video on for the panel speakers that are coming in. I have a few, I've taken some notes during the presentation, so I have some specific questions for the presenters. And at the same time, I just have some general questions too for the other 2 that are joining this panel discussion. And Sophia, you had mentioned, topics of computer vision, robotics, NLP. Is this much of a self-learned or via coursework that you would actually have? I'm curious about what's theoretical and hands-on at NTNU.
Good question. I think a lot of the courses you can definitely learn a lot of the hands-on in different courses, but I think mostly that is 4th and 5th year students when you actually get to the AI master's degree. So a lot of the students who just really get the first meeting with the hands-on project, for example, in first to third year students, they are typically doing this on their own initiatives through, for example, events at Brain NTNU or different student organizations. Yeah, you can definitely get some the hands-on experience through courses as well.
And I think that's been pretty interesting also just listening to your presentation about the democratization of AI, to the younger generation, just the tools that are out there that you can actually learn hands-on yourself rather than sitting through textbooks. And I think that's really kind of a change that I noticed that and learned from you today. Jorgen, you talked a lot about your research. In terms of I'm curious about the collaboration between research and industry, and then also what disciplines I would say, young people or students like you are interested in. Can you share a little bit more about research and industry?
Yeah, I think at least kind of the projects for the most part that I've been involved in is very research oriented, like you said. So I don't know if there is like someone working with similar stuff in the industry. But if you know someone, then let me know. So my master thesis is working with the spiking neural networks, and I think it's still quite early in terms of actually implementing that. But I think there is some. I think Intel has like some neuromorphic CPUs or something. So there is something going on there, but I'm not quite sure. What was the second part of the question again?
No, I was just curious about like kind of the research, like collaborating with research entities, from, being a student too. And do you see that happening more and more? You kind of mentioned that you weren't so aware of them. I know we have Alex that is on the phone and on the meeting, and I know he's working a lot on that too. So maybe we can connect you. But there are companies, I know DMV GL also has, research, a heavy research arm too. So no, that's really interesting. Then I'll go to Christopher. Oh, sorry.
Can I just jump in because it's sort of on the same topic? I was a bit curious because you were presenting a research project with which is using evolutionary algorithm, and I haven't seen much of that in use in industry, and I was just wondering whether you have some ideas for inputs or something, like why that is the case. I was like, what is in particular challenging or not fitting for industry in terms of evolutionary algorithms?
Yeah, I'm not sure actually. I think I mean there might be more efficient methods. I think if you have a fitness function that can properly evaluate the results of certain parameters for a model, then I think it can work for most things, but there might be more efficient ways of doing it. I'm not sure. So it's just a algorithm that we learned in one of our courses. So I don't have like the complete overview of what all the methods that can be used to find the correct parameters. But yeah, it would be very interesting to hear if there is some implementation in the industry using it, but I'm not sure.
Great, thank you. So I'll go to Christopher. Now that you've graduated and you're in the real world, what would you say is kind of the biggest difference you see from being in school and now actually working full time on this?
There's definitely a lot more meetings than I was used to at NTNU. That's, I think, is the biggest difference. But yeah, now we really got to see how I can use the hands-on experience that I learned, I would say, the last year at NTNU. I feel like the first part of my master degree was mostly like the basics and understanding everything theoretically. And the 2 last years, we focused more on hands-on experience. And especially once I got involved with the Brain NTNU, we had workshops, we had hackathons and everything. So yeah.
And in terms of the topics that you're working on, I don't know if you can talk about it. Is it, similar to what you were, doing or studying in NTNU, or is it totally different that you need to learn over again?
Yeah, no, it's actually very, very similar. So I like the example that Anna showed, just where we use computer vision in some of the internal class courses that we had with Brain. I'm currently working on Spot, the robot from Boston Dynamics, and we are implementing a lot of computer vision models on top of that to, for example, recognize gauges, recognize spills and everything. And under the hood, there's just a basic object detection model that we implement by, we have a pre-trained model from PyTorch, right? So I learned a lot of that from NTNU, and I really can apply this to my work here in Cognite now.
Very good, thank you. And then Rashmi, what do you think about, we talked a little bit about the talent shortage in Norway when it comes to like data engineering, data science, and AI. Are you getting contacted, by companies? Like, what are you looking for in an employer? What would attract you to an employer?
Well, thankfully, I have managed to get a job in the last 3 months. So yeah,
congratulations.
But I think it's more to do about how you network with the employers than they contacting you. So what I have seen is that you need to be extremely proactive and sort of, be ahead in your game in terms of, getting in touch with people and building your network. So I think that has been really helpful. And I think I don't think there is like a shortage of talent. It is just that we need to, the universities should sort of, encourage more people to take up these courses, because in Norway, like because of the free education, and I have another degree from the US. So what I can say is that here in Norway, with free education, it's so much more easier to, get these courses, learn these courses, and sort of go ahead in your career. So, and I see a lot of people doing that as well. So I don't think there is like shortage of talent in Norway. It's just that people need to be a little more proactive, and they need to tap into the resources that are readily available in the society.
Great. And I guess this is sorry, go on, Lillian.
Sorry, jumping in. Yeah, just on that point, I saw Rashmi, thanks for answering the question in the chat that someone had, that asking whether the neural net courses were available for people that were not students, and you said that yes, they are. So that's cool.
Great. To follow up, I guess, in terms of in the industry, it said Microsoft in the beginning, but I actually work for Crayon now, and we always talk about difficulties in finding talent. And what would it be? I'm curious for all of you guys too. What do you look for in an employer? One is salary, but what is in general, what would make you pick a company if that was all even? So maybe we can go to Jorgen and then go to Anna Sophia. Go back, yeah.
Yeah, and Christopher raised his hand, so
okay, yeah.
Comments as well.
Okay.
Yeah, Christopher, you need to be careful what you say, so your employer doesn't hear you. But
we are live streamed. I'm giving you. But Jorgen, why don't you start?
Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, maybe the optimal job would be like research in the industry, which I'm sure is like the hardest positions to get. I'd take a big wage cut if I could get that. But I think, other than that, somewhere where you're allowed to be a little creative and participate actively in kind of the project choices, I guess, would be very important for me. Not just, be someone who is handed down tasks to do, but be able to participate a little bit more actively. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Anna Sophia?
Yeah, so I think personally for me, it's a lot about working kind of in the bridging between business and AI, and being able to implement AI that generates value for different companies, and seeing that what I implement and what I contribute with actually is valuable for different companies. So I think working on the employer has to have like different types of projects, different cool, interesting AI projects, but I also have to see the kind of value that it contributes to different either companies or people for that matter. So I think I'm more of I need to see like the more immediate kind of value of what I'm implementing instead of more of the long-term research, I guess. And I mean, another factor is just a social environment and nice people, and yeah, in the work environment is very important for me.
Great. Christopher?
Yeah, I agree a lot with what Jorgen and Anna has said right now, but I think it's about finding fun projects to work on. It's not about having or finding a company who is willing to pay you a lot of money, but finding a company with exciting projects which you are looking forward to working at, right? So looking forward going to work the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the most important thing.
Okay, thank you. Rashmi?
Yeah, I think I agree with most of the points. So there has to be scope for improvement, personal improvement and professional improvement. And also, like, you need to be able to do creative things like Anna mentioned, and you need to be able to learn something new every day. Otherwise, it's gonna be monotonous and nobody wants to work that way. So yeah, I think it's more to do with the professional development that the job will hold for me. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Pick up a question from the chat.
Yeah, I was just gonna head there. Vetla, do you want to ask? Do you want to unmute and ask your question, or should I just read it? Or you guys can read it in the chat too, and then I think. Okay, I'll read it out loud in terms of. Okay, oh, go ahead. So, do you guys see the question in the chat? I will.
Oh, it's yeah. The question is that AI and ML research is currently dominated by the industry, and especially the PubGa, so the big tech companies group. How should the universities, and specifically the Norwegian universities, work to keep up? So Facebook, Amazon, I keep forgetting the
Google
Amazon,
Microsoft, Google.
Yeah. All of those.
Yeah. Yeah. Does anyone want to jump in first? Or?
I mean, I can go first. My initial thoughts on this is that I think it all starts with the universities kind of keeping a lot of the talent that they have and the students, because I think a lot of the universities, especially Norwegian universities, see a lot of the students going into the industry after they're finished with their master's degree. But I think portraying kind of the different possibilities and work areas possible areas for research that you would be able to do with a PhD or like a doctorate degree at NTNU is very important that the universities, for example, NTNU, actually prioritize this because it would really keep more of the talent at NTNU and produce more research. And then hopefully in the long term actually contribute more to the AI and ML research. And actually this is something that we tried to do at the last event that we had, Women in AI, which actually a lot of women professors presented at the event and tried to tell about the possibilities with research and PhD at NTNU.
Great, thank you. Jorgen, do you have any thoughts on this too?
Yeah, I guess it's quite hard to keep up with this huge companies, but I guess one thought I had is that these our universities don't really have to there doesn't need to be a monetary incentive for the project that we do. So I guess researchers are able to kind of research domains that the big companies are not researching, which could lead to some cool stuff. So there might not be a complete overlap in the two sort of domains of research, I guess. Yeah, that's the only thought I can come up with, but yeah.
Great. And I have a question just about like the social impact of AI. From responsible AI, ethical AI, or using AI for militaries or weapons. Do you guys consider that is that important to you in your generation in terms of what you're working on? I'm curious about your thoughts on that. Rashmi, do you want to start? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think last semester I had this course in something called Internet of Things. So there we had this particular topic called ethical AI, and this was pertaining to the application in cyber weapons. So yeah, I think the conclusion, or at least what we took away from that, was something on the lines of, there needs to be a framework, there needs to be sort of a directive for companies who or manufacturers who are developing cyber weapons. So they need to follow some frameworks, otherwise, there's a very high chance that these technologies will be going to the wrong set of hands. So I believe that it's important that there needs to be framework and guidelines when it comes to cyber weapons, and also when it comes to ethical AI. And I think corporate companies should also play a role in this, in terms of having certain groups which are built of people from different fields, such as anthropology, and then maybe even I don't know, arts, or different fields, who can then bring in their perspectives on things, on what is considered ethical, what is not, because AI technologies are generally built by just engineers, and that is not really a good way to do it. You need to have different opinions, different thoughts into it. So I think people from different backgrounds should get together, and they need to sort of come to a consensus on how AI technology should be built. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. And Christopher, does that come, the social impact of AI? Do you think about that? And do you think about that during your studies and now working?
And so we actually really had to ask ourselves that question, since we're working with robots and trying to learn the robots to sort of take over some of the repetitive tasks that humans are performing. But we think it's really more about letting humans work on more creative tasks, right? So releasing humans from the boring work and opening up for more time to work on the creative tasks. I think that is sort of how we should look at it, and how we try to look at it in Cognite when we deploy our robots.
Yeah, great. Anna Sophia?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of good points mentioned, and as you can see, it's all about how the AI is utilized. I mean, the AI is already there with the deep, for example, as I showed in my presentation, the deep privacy, that can be used for good. It can also be used for deep fake. So it's really about just how you utilize it. And with respects to that, I think how we actually do it in Norway with the regulated domains in finance and, for example, law, I actually really respect how we do this, so that if you cannot prove or actually make an explainable AI, that you can actually see what it is utilizing to give the different predictions, it's not allowed to use for the companies, and actually regulating that until you can actually see that it's fairly giving these different predictions or whatever it is the model is giving results on, I guess. Yeah.
And in terms of the kind of the, like Rashmi mentioned that she had a course, in responsible AI. In NTNU, do they have like, a course on social impact of AI, whether it's responsible or ethical or social things to consider? Yeah.
So I do know we have XPhil. I know it's a lot about philosophical themes, but I do know that this year they actually had a lot about ethics in AI. But I don't know if they have a course that's directly connected to ethics in AI. Christopher, do you know about this?
Yeah, I think there's some small courses at NTNU, but not any of the big ones, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's interesting. Great. There was a question from G to the panel in terms of AI companies, other than Cognite. What are kind of the big AI-like companies in Norway? I don't know. Jorgen, do you know, or anybody in the panel? No?
No, I'm not sure. My immediate thought was maybe something like Schibsted could potentially become it. I'm not sure. They kind of have all the data available. So, but yeah, I'm not sure if there are any big AI companies.
Yeah, yet. I think I will agree on that, Jorgen. That's a good suggestion, actually. They have a lot of data, especially from Finn. They get the data from there, right? Yeah. And I don't think they utilize everything yet. So they have sort of a lot of data that are not used yet. So maybe Schibsted will be one of the big ones. Yeah.
Yes, but I think in Finn they actually do quite a bit of data science. I don't know how many they are, but they are definitely using it to provide items that look like it, for instance, look like the one that you're looking at.
Yeah, and if anybody knows in the chat, to also feel free to put in one. I could maybe throw out Lillian's company, and also in Meta, which does a lot too around that, and Crayon. But yeah, if anybody else has any other ones too, like feel free to put them.
I was thinking about Oda, maybe Oda.
Yeah,
they are doing a lot. Yeah, and they will suddenly know everything about your eating habits and what you use to order. So yeah, maybe them.
I think also in the public setting, I think companies like Now and Skatteetaten are also investing heavily on AI and machine learning. So I know for a fact that Now did not have their own like a specific IT division, up till recently, but now they have their own and they're not outsourcing any of these data related activities. So they're doing all of the analytics and everything in-house. So yeah.
Yeah, and also as suggested by Vetle, the big banks also have some.
Yeah, I saw that Vetle mentioned the big banks, but they are usually much more regulated than the big companies like Facebook and stuff like that. So,
but I know at least that DNB has the data scientists in-house.
Yeah, definitely.
And the router probably sits on a lot of data as well.
Yeah.
I think I have one more question, but anybody else in the chat, feel free to throw it in. At Oslo AI, the board members, Lily included, most of us are a little bit older. We have at minimum 10 years experience going in, and I'm curious, what do you find as the kind of the younger generation when you do meet with like a typical person in the industry who's been working for 7 or 10 years? What do you think is the biggest difference in the way how you approach AI or your thinking in general? I would love to kind of get some insight on that. Who wants to start on this one?
Yeah, I can start. I think I remember I took another bachelor in mechatronics, and I remember we were quite surprised when we started on our bachelor project, where we had all these grand ideas for creating this this thing, and suddenly we realized the actual implementation wouldn't work. Like there was all these restrictions that it's not kind of apparent when you're just working with the theory. So I think, yeah, a lot of it's the same for AI. You know, we have all these grand ideas. You can just use this data and put it in the model, and then that just works perfectly. But in real life, you have all these, you know, data sets isn't available, or it's missing data, and you know, I'm sure there's a lot of hurdles that we you know, never would think about, since we only work with these perfect data sets in a kind of, yeah, easy environment. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, and not to integrate with like the customer services that are already in place. You can't choose really what you.
You have to work within the customer's needs and wants, I guess, versus and how to, yeah, make sure that they're aligned, I guess. Anna Sophia, Christopher, Rashmi, do you have any thoughts about that and the main differences?
Could you repeat the question? I sort of forgot it, to be honest.
I was just thinking the kind of the main differences from some, you know, kind of somebody young who's either still in school or just graduated versus somebody who's been working for 8 to 10 years. Is there a different way of even looking at AI or thinking about it or approaching it? And or is it about the same?
Yeah, I think a lot of our the young people coming straight from university now is just thinking, let's try a deep neural network. It will probably work. And then you meet the guys who have worked with this in the industry for a longer time. They don't always have the same approach, right? So that, I think that is a big difference.
Yeah, that's a good point. Any other coming? Vetla has a comment too. Yeah, so yeah, Vetla's a fun comment there. But we are actually near time, I think, correct, Lillian?
Yes, we have a few more minutes. I was just, I promised after the talk of Anna Sophia to pick up the question that she got during her presentation. So maybe I can just take that. It was someone who was curious about what sort of optimization you're working on in AI. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it is the mathematical modeling optimization, where it's utilized on different types of industry processes typically. So for my master thesis right now, I'm working with Ruter and their Rosa busser. They're kind of the people who are 67 years or older can utilize these kind of mini vans, actually, where they're also spot places for wheelchairs. And we're trying to optimize the routing of these minivans or buses to reduce the cost and increase ride sharing. So that is just one type of optimization that we are doing. Other would be fleet optimization of different ship vessels. Yeah, it's really just optimization, mathematical modeling, and optimization within the industry processes. And yeah.
Cool. Great. And are there any last comments, or before we move to GatherTown? There's the link over there. One thing is for GatherTown, if you can go in and you know I would say we have a goal for you to try to find Even Hetland. He's one of our, so he's going to be wandering around there. You can try to find him and Håkan too, and try to talk. And the whole goal is to mingle and try out this tool, which we haven't used, but I think some of you in the call have. So. Yeah. Lillian, do you have any?
Yeah, I can. I mean, while people try to get on the GatherTown space, maybe I can like do a little show around. Yeah. Because it is a big space, so one might easily get lost, and also just to know them. Oh wow. The space itself, and know like what you can do and what you cannot do. So when you go into this link, you should see something like this. Probably you have to build your own avatar. Just choose the standard one. And as I mentioned in my presentation, you might get to this island with this little tutorial, which you can choose either to just skip or to go through. It's just 3 steps and then go through the ports to get into the main space. I should have pushed that button immediately because it takes a little while to load. Right. Okay. So yeah, then you get into this space and you can see that there are already some people here. You can choose to follow someone, and like if you really get lost, you can right click and choose follow, but that's cheating. So you should actually walk around and try to find Øyvind instead, as Abby said. So, or you can message directly, and whenever you are close to someone in like physical, virtual physical space, in this area or this space, yeah, then you can directly interact with that person. Whenever you see an element that starts to be yellow or glow, you can interact with it. So now it's not yellow, this AI Global Festival, and now it turns yellow and hello. And if you want to interact, you can press X to interact with it. So here I think you get forwarded to the, which takes a little while to load because I'm trying to do several things. The Global AI webpage, for instance. So this area here, the help desk, is to have some useful information. You can also, oh, it's starting to get crowded. That's awesome. So here you also have this boarding kits, and if these computers, I think you can get a little tutorial. So if you forget something that I say, there's a 5-minute YouTube recording that Larissa did on like this space.
Are you guys having trouble? We only see 5 people in the group.
Yeah, I was thinking I will join afterwards, maybe. But
Right.
Can I join both being in Zoom and in Gather? Yeah, it has to be.
Yes,
Yeah, well,
I am.
I'm in both.
So,
But,
at this moment.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Just go ahead. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So then you can enter this main space, which is pretty big. And actually, how can I move? You can't see this probably, can you? So I have a problem with doing Zoom and this in the meantime, because now I cannot see the the buttons on the bottom, but there is a little thing you can choose, a little map, so you can see where you are in this space in case you get lost. So this is the main area. You have some rooms here for different networking sessions with some topics. Oh yeah, there was Øyvind. So yeah, again, whenever you're close to someone in space, you can choose to interact. Or if you're in one of these rooms, so-called private rooms, everyone in that, oh wow, you can't, everyone in that room can hear everyone else in that room.
Right.
Yes, so there's a gaming area on top where you can actually play some games if you log in. Takes a little while with this thing, but and then I'll leave that as a little quiz. Let's try to meet in the DJ room. And if you're in a big room and you want to navigate quickly, for instance, let's go into the webinar, which some of the cities of the Global AI City, Global AI Festival, they choose to host everything in Gather Town, so they have their talks then in the webinar room. So it's sort of like a stage, and whoever is on stage here is then spotlighted, so everyone, like in this couch, everyone in the room can hear that person. But what I wanted to show you also is that you have these teleporting areas. So these rectangles, which is sort of lightning, is teleporting you back to this space, which is, we were just at the left of this space. And if you want to move quickly through the space, you can choose to get teleported, for instance, to the DJ room here. So I'll show you how it looks like. And oh, Petla, go and